Hey everybody, welcome back to the Blind Gooner. Listen, apologies for this early start. I want to apologize. We just had to shift things around a little bit, but welcome to this preview for Arsenal versus Benfica. And I'm joined by Cristiano from the Benfica podcast. How you doing, mate?
I'm doing well. How you doing, Daniel?
Yeah, not too bad. Listen, thank you very much for joining me. Thank you for joining me today. It's a really appreciate you coming on.
My pleasure, buddy. Anytime.
I want to start by asking you about your origins as a Benfica supporter. So, because I know you're based over there in the States.
Yes, sir.
So, how did it come to be? How did you come to be a Benfica fan? Were you born in Portugal or?
That is correct. So I was born in Portugal. Came over to the United States with my family when I was about 8 years old, in the New York City area, the tri-borough, tri-state area, I should say tri-borough. And obviously, I already came over with the bug. The bug had been implanted in me, and Benfica has been inside ever since. And it's hard. It's hard to get away from it. In the 90s, it was a little bit difficult to follow the club as closely as it is now. Obviously, now with the internet and everything else is so much easier to do so. But try to get my hands on as many newspapers as possible. Always try to follow the team the best I could from afar. And it's just a love of the game, a love of Benfica. It's my first love. Like I tell everybody I speak to on a daily basis that it's this first thing I learned to love, and Benfica is always been with me, and I've been with them ever since. And so I'm ecstatic. I couldn't be happier. Um, that I follow this club. It's just a ginormous club, and it's more than just a club, man. It's a family. It's a religion. There are some that call it a cult, whatever you want to call it. But I'm just ecstatic that I have chosen Benfica and not the other clubs in Portugal.
Yeah, and do you guys over there in the States? Because I know that there's a big, there's a big Premier League following. I know there's there's ways to sort of watch the Premier League over there. But is that the same for you guys? And because I'm sure that with the Portuguese league is not so high profile as the Premier League.
Well, obviously the Premier League gets all the attention. There's watch parties throughout the country, and so it's just obviously it's very popular in the United States. But Portuguese football, it's somewhat doesn't get the attention from everyone else. But obviously the Portuguese community, everyone's got their own local cultural club. Each part of each region of Portugal, they have a cultural club representing that area, and so everybody on Sunday, well, used to be on Sundays, now games are Thursday, Friday, whatever, whichever days the games pop up. Everybody just makes sure they go to their local bar, to their local cultural club, and it gets absolutely packed. People are in there watching games. And again, it doesn't get the notoriety that the EPL does, but in the Portuguese community, man, it's ginormous. Both for Benfica, Porto, Sporting, whatever. Those are can't miss games, and everybody makes sure that they don't miss any of those games.
Yeah, definitely. And so let's talk about your season as a Benfica. We will come on to the big game tomorrow, but just to put it into context for your season, how has your season been going this season? Because being an Arsenal fan, and our season is not so great and very, very disappointing. But from a Benfica point of view, how has your season been going this season?
Well, Daniel, as you know, we had the privilege, Benfica podcast, to speaking to Robbie, speaking to Curtis, speaking to Troops, and basically the way those guys were, explaining Arsenal season so far. And as I told Robbie, just swap the names, you know, take out the name Arsenal, insert the name Benfica, and it's basically the same thing. Obviously, very disappointed. A lot of money spent in the offseason, bringing in a new coach, high expectations. We thought we were going to run away with the league. And it's just been disappointment after disappointment. It started with the play-in game for the UEFA Champions League. We lost to PAOK and PAOK 2-1, a game that I don't think a single Benfica in the world expected us to lose. But unfortunately, we did drop that game. And in particular, this season, when it's a one-off game as opposed to two legs, I have no doubt that the second leg in Lisbon, it would have been a totally different result. But we didn't have the opportunity to play that game because the rules didn't dictate it. So right then and there, disappointment number one. And then after that, it was just Benfica played a couple good games throughout the season, but for the most part, it's just been tough performances after tough performances. At one point, we had 11 players out with COVID. So anything and everything that could get in the way has absolutely gotten in the way of this club. And it's been a snowball effect, and it's just been really hard to get back on form. And as we stand here, we're in fourth place in the Portuguese league. We're 15 points behind leader Sporting. So it's not been a good season by any stretch of the imagination. And tomorrow we have a huge game against Arsenal, a very tough opponent. But we're kind of in the same boat. You guys need to advance. You need to stay in this competition. You need to try to win this competition to salvage your season, and that's pretty much where we're at this point. The only difference is we're still in the Taça de Portugal, which is, I believe, your FA Cup. So we still have an opportunity. We're in the semifinal. We still have an opportunity to bring home some silverware. But aside from that, this is really our last chance to salvage our season. And again, it's against a very tough opponent. But I think Benfica will come into the game and prepare to play and hopefully catch you guys napping.
And as you say, this is make or break, which is kind of how we're looking, from an Arsenal point of view as well. We're looking at it from the same perspective. Listen, our season's pretty much done and dusted. We're sort of way behind in the league. You guys are slightly a little bit further up in your league table, but we're looking at it as the exact same thing. In terms of this is make or break, make or break. And I wanted to ask you from an outsider's point of view, how would you assess the goings on at the Arsenal? Listen, they've been well documented, as you know. You said there with Robbie and AFTV and the big fan base that we have.
Mm-hmm.
How would you assess the situation? Would you say that our situations are very similar to Benfica in the sense in respect of our seasons? And what looking at it from an outsider's point of view, what do you see going on?
Absolutely. In terms of this season, look, I think the difference, and not trying to downgrade you guys by any stretch of the imagination. The difference is that Benfica were expected to dominate in Portugal, expected to win the league, expected to win the Taça da Liga, expected to win the Taça Portugal, expected to be in a Champions League. And where you guys were, I look at Arsenal with, young coach, doesn't have much, well, didn't have any experience as a head coach, a former player of yours, but, still trying to build the Arsenal squad to in his own mold, in his own eyes, trying to build you guys for the future. I don't think anyone expected you to be in 10th place or whatever it is you may be in right now. You were in 10th place last week. I don't know where you're at now.
Yeah, I think we're sort of 8th to 10th.
Okay, yeah, somewhere in that range.
We're knocking around. Yeah, we're not. We at the start of the season, we all predicted that we've got to be in the top 4, but listen, that's not really happened. We've lost 11 times this season in the Premier League. We've lost 11 games, so it's very much over. We've sort of underachieved, so to speak, this season.
Yeah, so that's the only difference, I think, between the two clubs is we were expected to bring home everything, and you were content. You're trying to build into finishing in the top 4 in order to make it into Champions League next year, and then you'll be able to strengthen your squad, and then maybe in a year or two attack the Premier League title. We were expected to do that from day one. We invested nearly 100 million euros, which in Portuguese football, that is by a wide margin a record. It's no one's ever spent anywhere near these amounts of money that Benfica has spent this off season. So aside from expectations coming into the season, everything else is pretty much on par. You have very good players that haven't performed to expectations, just like we have. There's games that we could have very easily won, but for one reason or another, we just couldn't get out of our own way, just like you guys have. So everything else is parallel. Everything else is very comparable. And look, I think Arsenal is on the right path. It just might take you guys a little bit longer to get to the promised land, to where you guys want to get to. Where Benfica, realistically, it's really a 3-team league. I know Sporting Braga is trying to make some noise, and they've been a lot better over the last decade or so. But at the end of the day, Benfica has no excuse to be where they're at. The EPL is a very tough league. There's always the possibility that teams come out of the woodworks and can surprise any team on any given day. And Portugal is a little bit different, and so I think in terms of disappointment, I understand things aren't going well for you guys, but I think in disappointment, Benfica has been way bigger of a disappointment from what we watched week in, week out.
Yeah, and I just want to remind everybody in the chat to hit the like button. Please do. It helps the growth of the channel. And do subscribe if you're new to the channel. Coming on to the game then. So last week we had the first leg and we drew 1-1. What did you make of that game? What's your initial feelings, and how did you think, looking at it from your point of view and looking at it from the Arsenal's point of view, what's your assessment of last week's game?
Well, first, I was surprised that Jorge Jesus did decide to play with 3 at the back, and I think that might have caught you guys by surprise. But nonetheless, you started off, the game playing better than what we than what we did. You guys had a lot more possession of the ball. You created very good opportunities. I'm still shocked that Aubameyang missed that one chance. But I think as the game went on, Benfica got a little bit more comfortable and took them about 30 minutes to wake up and to finally, smell the coffee and realize, oh, snap, we're here playing a game. Maybe we should possess the ball a little bit. Maybe we should try to control the game a little bit. And that's exactly what Benfica did. I think they got a lot more comfortable, created a couple of opportunities, and then obviously going into the second half, scored that early goal, PK. And then, fortunately for us, unfortunately for you guys, we didn't even have time to celebrate because you guys got right back on the scoring sheet. You leveled the game. But even then, I think Arsenal, look, throughout the 90 minutes, I think Arsenal were the better side. Can't dispute that. But it took a very fortuitous bounce off of Weigl's face in order for you to get possession in the box and get that goal. If you don't get that lucky bounce, maybe we're looking at Benfica going into the second leg with a 1-0 lead. Totally different pressure on you guys, totally different outlook. But the gods wouldn't have it that way. I think the fair result in the end was the 1-1 draw. And obviously, you're in a driver's seat because that one away goal means a lot. But, Benfica is still very much in it. Benfica do have the players. They have the squad. They have the coach with tons of experience that they could surprise any team on any given day. Do I anticipate that to happen? Look, as a Benfica fan, I sure as hell I'm praying for it and hoping so. But I don't know. It's going to be a very tough game tomorrow in Greece. I think Arsenal, as you mentioned before, and I think as everyone I've spoken to on the Arsenal side has mentioned, this is their last grasp at trying to salvage their season. So I think the Arteta and I think the players, everybody will be ready. So I expect this a very, very tough matchup tomorrow. Just hope that Benfica catches you guys on a counter and we're able to defend as well as we did the other day, last week, I should say, in the first leg. And we squeeze away, we come away with a 1-0 win and gives Benfica a little pep in their step. And maybe, just maybe, our team starts picking it up. And because right now we're 4 points outside of, the third place, which in Portugal now, the first 2 get guaranteed spots in the Champions League. That third place is crucial because you still get to play in that play-in game. So Benfica still got a lot to work for. So hopefully a game like tomorrow, a victory against a team of the likes of Arsenal, can lift our spirits and get our confidence levels up and turn our season around.
Yeah, I think as well, because, we're both, I think it's going to be a very interesting tie tomorrow because both teams have massively underperformed this season. I mean, you guys, your defensive record is, I think, what you've lost. You've only conceded 16 goals this season, right? So your defensive record is pretty solid, which every team that Arsenal have played this season, we have always struggled against the teams that are very compact and are able to defend. And that's the one thing I noticed about you guys last week is that, okay, you might not have offered much going forward, but defensively, you guys were pretty organized, pretty sound, and pretty solid. And do you think that will come into play tomorrow because we don't play well against teams that can defend and park the buses, you like to, as some people like to call it?
See, I think it's funny you mentioned Benfica have only allowed 16 games. I think you had the goal from the weekend is 17 now. And it might seem rather low, but in Benfica standards, right? In Portuguese football standards, Benfica, when they're hitting on all cylinders at this point, they would have had allowed 7, 8 goals. So this is 17 goals for a Benfica team is a lot of goals to have allowed throughout this part of the season. Benfica went through a stretch where it was week in, week out, guaranteed they were giving up 2 goals. Just a matter of, question was, is Benfica going to score 3 or are they going to be able to level it at 2-2? Because we went through a very rough patch where we couldn't keep the ball out of the net. Now we seem to have finally figured it out on the defensive end. We're playing a lot better, not allowing goals, but at the same time, we're not scoring goals. It's as if we've swapped our difficulties from the back to the front now. And so our strikers, our wingers, our midfielders, we just can't get the ball in the back of the net. We're having a very difficult time scoring, and so it's just it's not been anything anywhere near what we expected for Benfica. This is not what our coach, what his track record suggests he is. His teams normally do not leak goals at the back, and we did so. So I think it's going to be very important tomorrow, and I think that'll be their objective because we saw that in the first leg where let's worry about the defensive end of things. Let's make sure that Arsenal doesn't get on the score sheet. Let's make sure we handle our business, uh, and then we'll try to spring someone on a counterattack and try to catch Arsenal napping. Now, difference is tomorrow Arsenal, due to the fact that they have the one away goal, they're really not in an urgent need to come forward. Even though I do think you guys will try to press early on and try to get that early goal in order to kind of put the game away, because then Benfica is expected to score 2 goals and things will be much more difficult for us. So I do think you guys will press, but if it doesn't come, it's not going to be the end of the world for you guys. I don't think the players will start stressing on the field. And I don't think the coaching staff will be preoccupied if Benfica is not really controlling the play or creating chances. So, as I've said before, I expect a very tough matchup tomorrow. Very tough game. Hoping that our players do come to play. We'll see how Jorge Jesus decides to implement his starting 11. I do believe he'll go back to the 3 center back system, the 3-5-2. And then it's just a matter of fact, will Pizzi get in there over Del Tarap? Who's going to be the partner up top with Darwin Nunez? I think it'll most likely be a Luca Waldschmidt, the German international, because those two do like to link up together. They have an understanding of playing one another. When Benfica plays with Sferovic and Darwin, they're both kind of the similar player, physical players that don't really create much for everyone else. It's just about getting the ball and shooting on goal and closing their eyes and hoping everything goes well. Where Luca gives you a little bit different. He scores a lot of goals as well, but he's more of a player that likes to play with the ball at his feet, likes to set up his teammates, likes to give in goals, likes to move off the ball. So I think that's where Jorge Jesus will go. But again, we won't know until we see it. And I think Benfica. Uh, I think Benfica needs to do everything in their power to score a goal and put the pressure back on Arsenal tomorrow. And I think once we do that, then we'll see how you guys react, because at the end of the day, Benfica has nothing to lose. It's everything is on Arsenal's side. You guys are the big boys. You guys are the ones that are supposed to beat up on little Portuguese sides. So we'll see what happens.
And that's the thing. And I know we're running out of time, and hence why we had to start this podcast a little bit early. But I wanted to ask you, because it's been well documented from an Arsenal point of view that tomorrow is make or break for Mikel Arteta. If we don't qualify to the next round, then there's lots of Arsenal fans calling for him to be sacked. And I wanted to ask you on. In terms of Benfica, how guys, if you guys don't go through, how likely and how frequently do you guys change managers, and how, compared to the English Premier League, is it unheard of that your manager is maybe, if the things aren't going well, gets sacked? So how often does that happen?
Happens all the time. I mean, Benfica, the last 20 years, they've gone through probably like 20 managers. I mean, Jorge Jesus is the one the longest tenure there. When his first stint at Benfica, he was there from I believe 2010 through 2016, and then he left for crosstown rival Sporting. It's the equivalent of Arteta leaving a Tottenham or Chelsea or whatever, whichever one of the many English teams in London that you guys battle it out for city superiority. Um, but Benfica has had no problem in switching managers in the last what 2 seasons. Benfica's had 3 managers. They fired Rui Vitória after I believe 4 seasons. Then they went to no 3.5 seasons. Then they went to Bruno Lage. He was there maybe a year, whatever it was, year and a couple months. Then they fired him. He took over Rui Vitoria's team that was 7 points behind Football Club do Porto in second place. Lage came in, had a fantastic finish to the season, so much so that they were able to overturn that 7 point deficit and wound up squeaking out the title and beating Porto, going to Porto Stadium, beat him there, which is something that Benfica hasn't done many times since the stadiums were constructed in '03. So one of the rare victories at that facility, Benfica was able to overturn that and give him a contract extension. We were all in love with him, and then started off the season from August until December. Benfica went like 17-1-1.
Yeah,
Phenomenal first half, and then as the turn of the year, whatever 20, what was it, 19 to 20, bro, the wheels fell off the wagon. We could not win another game. He got fired, brought in the interim manager. He was just, I mean, he was absolutely clueless and lost. And then they brought in this guy who had been there, who had success with Benfica, who had success at the international level, winning the Copa Libertadores with Flamengo. I was ecstatic that he was coming back because I thought he was exactly what we needed. And so to find Benfica in the current situation is just absolutely. I'm just dumbfounded. I can't believe that we've reached these lows. Once again, it's just it's not good for my health. It's not good for any Benfica's health. You know what I mean? This is
try being an Arsenal fan, mate. I tell you, so it's not good for health, not good for mental health or physical
yeah,
well-being. Being an
absolutely.
Arsenal fan right now.
But
So,
real quick, that as you were saying that tomorrow's make or break, and there's some fans that want Arteta sacked. And again, it's another one of those parallels. I think it's same situation with Benfica. There are people that are calling for his resignation. Now, the only difference is that Benfica signed them to a hefty contract after spending nearly 100 million in transfer market. Benfica really doesn't have the bankroll to fire him. Still paying him and his coaching staff all the millions when we're still paying the previous guy Bruno Lage $1.5 million a year or whatever it is. So that's the only saving grace for him, is that Benfica can't really afford to fire him and then have to go out and pay another manager. So the only difference between Arsenal and us, you guys got the bankroll, we don't. But as far as going into the game tomorrow, very similar. I think whichever manager loses will most likely, in our case, he'll probably be asked to resign amicably, right? In your case, you'll sack him. But at the end of the day, there's a very good possibility that either one of these managers is looking at the possibility of managing their last game for their club.
yeah, and there's a lot. Listen, I think there's a lot of Arsenal fans as well. Listen, I personally, if we lose tomorrow, as much as I'd like Arteta to be sacked, I don't think it's going to happen. I think they've invested far too much into him. I want to grab your score prediction for tomorrow, because this is very interesting to hear what you've said about Benfica, and it's kind of like two parallel worlds colliding in the sense that we are in the same boat, as you guys are, a big fish against a small minnow, so to speak, but we're very much in the same boat in terms of not underachieving this season and not really fulfilled our potential. So what was your score prediction? What are your thoughts and what are your feelings ahead of
Man,
tomorrow's clash?
I feel like I've been set up, Daniel. I've been set up because coming into that first leg, my expectations were really low. Arsenal had just come off a 4-2 victory against Leeds. Aubameyang scoring a hat trick. Benfica was struggling with small size in the Portuguese league. We're lucky to come away with draws, and it's like, man, going into that game, I thought there was a real possibility that things could get really ugly for Benfica. But I think Benfica, as I said, in the first 30 minutes, you guys definitely had the better of the game, control of the ball, and Benfica was lucky to get into your offensive third. at times. But then after that, Benfica got a lot more comfortable, and I think that we started to believe that maybe we could play with these guys. We understand they got big name guys on the other side, but we're also national team players for our own countries, respectively. We might not be the big names that you guys are, but we know how to play football, and you could tell. At least the way I looked at it, we started to believe. And now, as a fan, I started to believe. But I feel like I'm being set up. I'm thinking back to 2015, 2016, whatever it was. I don't know. It might have been like 2017. Benfica is playing in the quarterfinals. Might have been the quarterfinals of the Champions League against Borussia Dortmund when Aubameyang was still there. They come to the lose in the first leg, and Aubameyang misses a penalty. He missed a bunch of sitters, right in front of goal, very similar to the other day. And Benfica went back to Dortmund for the second leg with very high expectations. We proved that we could play with these guys. We had a phenomenal first half, but still went into the half at 0-0. And then in the second half, Aubameyang and company decided to play, and they ultimately destroyed us 4-0. And I'm hoping we don't have a flashback of that tomorrow, because it's very similar. Aubameyang missing chance after chance the other day. And now Benfica does believe. We believe, we have life in us. We believe that we can possibly surprise the big almighty Arsenal, right? The big bankroll of the Premier League. And then we're going to get caught, just like last time. I'm hoping that's not the case. So I'm going to predict, you know what? I'll go with oh man, can't even go with a draw in this case, a 1-1 draw in this case, because then it'll go into extra time. So man, look, I'm praying and hoping 2-1 Benfica, extra time goal.
Wow.
Reminiscent of 1991 when Benfica drew 1-1 at home, then went into what was the name? Highbury? What was the name of the old stadium?
Highbury, yeah.
Highbury. Went into Highbury, 1-1 in regulation, and then in extra time, is capping off a fantastic performance. Benfica ultimately pulled off a 3-1 victory, shocking the world. And I'm hoping that we revert back to those old times. We get inspired previous to the game. The coaching staff, the directors from the club are showing these lads some of those old videos, and these guys get motivated and inspired, and they show up and they shock the world tomorrow. And we continue in the competition and live to fight another day.
Wow. You see, that's my prediction as well. 2-1 to the Arsenal, which is very possible. But I'm sure you're aware that last year we were in a similar position with Olympiacos and we absolutely messed it up. And so yeah, confidence is not very high in a majority of the Arsenal fan base right now.
Yeah. I mean, look, you do have fantastic players. I understand you guys haven't performed to expectations, but at the end of the day, you have the type of roster that can go very far in this competition. And even though I'm hoping tomorrow you don't have a good day, I will not be surprised if you do get through Benfica and you guys get to salvage your season later on, because your roster is filled with fantastic players. And look, as a Arsenal supporter from the outside, right? That's Arsenal's always been my English team, right? I look at you guys with good eyes, right? The way you say "com bons olhos" in Portuguese. I think you guys will, you're heading down the right path, and I think you'll figure it out at some time. Hopefully, Kroenke decides to run this team as it should, rather than a business in a way to get cash out of the club. And brings in the right people to run this club, because you guys deserve much more than what you've been getting from this guy over the last decade or so.
Yeah. And listen, before we wrap the show up, just give us, if you can, I know you've got to dash off for an appointment, but if you can just give us your assessment of Stan Kroenke, being over there in the States, who's more aware of him than maybe we are. What's the feeling in regards to Stan Kroenke? Because I hear a lot of people talking over there in the States, and he's not very a popular figure. He's not a popular figure amongst Arsenal fans. But for you guys who are based over there in the States, what's the thoughts and feelings towards Stan Kroenke?
Well, I'm not a fan of any of the teams that he owns here in the United States. I try not to pay much attention to him. The only reason why I even pay attention is because he does in fact own Arsenal. But from what I know, the fan base in St. Louis is very upset because of what he did to the club. Basically, he picked them up one day and decided to move them to Los Angeles, leaving that fan base stranded with no a team to root for. So I know there's a lot of people unhappy about that situation. At the end of the day, what I understand about Kroenke is that he's about the bottom line. He cares about money. He doesn't really care if his teams, especially Arsenal, if they have success on the field or not, because we know that the EPL is a cash cow, and as long as he's making money and it's getting back a positive return year after year, he's content with the current situation. So, as an Arsenal fan, that doesn't give me tons of confidence going forward, but hopefully the Rams and everybody else that he's involved with, I believe the Colorado Avalanche as well, if I'm not mistaken, um, they give this guy a reason to opt out of the current Arsenal situation, because I think Arsenal deserves someone at the club that's going to invest his time and money with the right objectives in mind.
Yeah, definitely. Listen, Cristiano, we've reached the end of the show. I know you've got to dash off for an appointment, so we will wrap it up here. But thank you very much for taking the time to come on and talk to me today.
Nah, thank you, man. Appreciate the opportunity to come on with you guys. I always like to root for Arsenal, but unfortunately, guys, not tomorrow. Tomorrow's Benfica through and through. That's my first love, and nothing will ever change that. So I wish you guys luck on the weekend and going forward, just not when you're playing my Benfica, unfortunately.
Just not tomorrow. Well,
Exactly.
Listen, that's the same here. Wish you luck for the rest of the season, but tomorrow all bets are off.
Thank you, Daniel. Appreciate you having me on, man. I look forward to speaking to you again soon.
Yeah, no worries. So guys, that is the end of the show. Like I said, apologies as well that I didn't get to any chats today. It was just a little bit of we had to sort of move things around at the last minute, but I will be back tomorrow with a watch along for the Benfica v Arsenal game. So do stay tuned for that. Please smash the like button on your way out. Subscribe if you are new to the channel. We're on the road to 2,000 subscribers. So listen, until tomorrow, guys. Take care, and thank you to everybody who's tuned in and watched today.